This is a big one that I've moved this up in the conversation is locking your bike. You can't have a good commute if your bike is no longer with you. Always lock your bike. That's number one. Whenever wherever you're putting it, and wherever it's out of your sight, make sure you're locking it up. So that's like we hear a lot of stories. People just go into a cafe for a quick coffee, and they don't lock their bike up. Someone comes and they can ride it a long way. That actually happens. Make sure you're locking your bike, even if you're just stopping for 5, 10 minutes. Lock it in your work bike lockers. A lot of folks with us have really great secure badge secure work lockers. Lock those in there. We've heard stories of our bikes getting stolen out of those places. People can make their way in. Nefarious thieves can make their way in, and that's no good. In any secure storage room, especially apartment bike lockers, are a lot of actually the most of our theft actually occurs in apartment bike lockers. Definitely spend some extra time locking it up. Also, just in your garage, uh, in an alley that you're going to anywhere. I think you get the idea. We're gonna move on. You gotta lock your bike the right way. We see a lot of this, and I'll show you in a second. There's a right way and a wrong way to lock your bike. So these are some wrong ways. So we can see on the left side here, that's just through the sort of central frame top tube. So this is two things. Both the wheels could get stolen. So if they could come off like those, remember those quick releases, they can just take those wheels off, and now you've lost two wheels, and that sucks because they're expensive. But also there's a way that thieves can actually break the lock by using the strength of the frame. It's a pain. And then these other ones are they've only locked to the wheels, front or rear wheel. And like I was saying, those quick releases, there a lot of bikes. It's really easy to take off a wheel because you want to be able to change a flat if you get a flat. And if you just lock by the wheels, a thief is very easily able to take the wheel and then they got the rest of the bike and they're going off. So this is the correct way to do it. And you see there's some consistency here. I think it's the best place to lock your bike up every time. You can kind of see there the frame, we call them the front and the rear triangle. You can see the lock here is locked to the wheel as well as the rear triangle in all of these examples. So you get the rear wheel, which is your most expensive wheel, and also the frame of your bike. So that's basically 75% of the bike is locked down by your lock. And then if you want to be really, you get a second lock or a cable, this bottom right one, you can then get a cable and lock up that front wheel or use a second U-lock or chain to lock up that front wheel. That's the best way to lock up your bike. So make sure you're locking it up by the frame. And if you can, lock it up by the frame and at least one of the wheels, preferably the rear wheel. That's the best way to do it. These are some examples of people who did not do that. These are real pictures of the aftermaths of Ride Panda thefts. People locking it up by the front wheel, quick release, removed, bike is gone. Quick release, bike is gone. This one, they locked it up by the rear rack. It's just held in by a few bolts. Thief had a wrench and was able to take the bolts out, and then the bike was gone. So always lock it up by the frame. That's going to be your number one defense against theft. Where you lock your bike also is really important. Generally, counterintuitively, you want to lock your bike in busy areas where there's lots of foot traffic, where there's people around, where, the socially a thief might actually like think twice about bringing out a big crazy power tool and, cutting when there's hundreds of people around. That's better than locking in a secluded area like you see this other photo. This is again a real photo of a Ride Panda bike theft in a garage. Garages are just a really tough place for bikes because they're secluded. No one's going to be, messing around. They're kind of sheltered from folks, from prying eyes or, the authorities. And so bike thieves will often steal bikes from garages very easily just because there's no one around. Additionally, a security system, bike locks, you're doing a security system only as strong as the weakest link. Your lock might be made of, hardened steel, but if you lock it to something that is not, that is much less than, then a thief is just going to be able to defeat the weakest link of your security situation. So obviously you can see on this left photo, there was a bolt that was there and they just undid a bolt and they were able to slide the lock off. This middle one looks like something, like an Alibaba bike rack situation. They just like kicked it apart. And then you see on this right one, there was this little thin metal strip that they were able to cut with some scissors or something and get a bike. So when you're locking up, think about the whole thing. It's not your bike's lock might be strong. You might have locked it to the frame and the rear wheel, but if you're locking it to something weak like that, they're going to be able to get it anyway. And I'll say just on this same idea, chain link fences, don't do that. They'll clip those chain link fences easy. Trees. A thief will cut down a tree to steal your bike. if you're locking up to a tree. 100%. Heard tons of stories about it. Don't lock up to trees. Then we lose a tree too, and that sucks. And signs, like street signs, like stop signs, parking signs. Sometimes those are just held in with bolts that a thief can easily take out, or they'll just cut the sign off because they're actually pretty weak metal. So those are three other things that you should not lock to. How many locks should you use? More the better. Maybe not this many, but two is pretty good. Two is like the best situation. We give you one to start off with, which is, great for, if you're locking in, your bike, your work bike locker, not necessarily an apartment bike locker, but if you're, locking up and going somewhere for an hour or so. If you're leaving your bike outside in a potentially, dangerous place for bike security for more than a couple of hours, you probably want to be putting more than one lock on that bike. Especially also if you're locking your bike up in an apartment bike locker, you want to put a few more locks on that thing. So they are often targeted by thefts. So you can see with this one, they got the rear triangle and the rear wheel, and they got the front triangle and the front wheel. This one's locked up real good. And that leads me to, finally, last piece on this. You don't need to outrun the bear. Now, what do I mean by this? Follow me with this metaphor for just one moment. A bear in this metaphor is the bike thief, and you are these two lovely hikers who are out for a hike. If a bear starts chasing you and you're out on a hike, here's the thing, you're with your friend, you don't need to run faster than the bear. You just need to outrun your friend. And as gruesome as that is, the same applies for bike security. You don't need to have the best locking security bike system in the entire world. All you need to do is be better locked up than the bikes around you. Because thieves are opportunists, they're not intense organized crime rings or something. It's just some stupid person going around trying to get something easy. Make sure your bike is a pain in the ass to get. And if your bike is harder to get than the other bikes around, then they're going to go get those other bikes. The bear's going to go get the other person. So, that being said, you don't need to outrun the bear. You just need to get enough locks and make sure that you're locked up right.